Hi, everyone. It's Joe Veneri, the host of Fitt Insider, the show where I talk with the entrepreneurs, executives, and investors who are redefining the business of fitness and wellness. Today, I'm joined by Mohammed Iqbal, founder and CEO of SweatWorks, a digital agency that powers top fitness and wellness brands. In this episode, we discuss the evolution of SweatWorks, trends in artificial intelligence, connected fitness, and wearable technology, and we explore untapped opportunities in hybrid fitness, integrated wellness, and democratizing well-being. Before today's episode, I wanted to share some updates to the Fitt Insider platform. As you might know, in addition to this podcast, we send a weekly newsletter to help operators stay informed and make better decisions. We also launched an industry-specific jobs board filled with hundreds of openings at top companies, and we're actively investing in early-stage health and fitness startups. To see what's new or to get in touch, visit insider.fit.co. Hi, Mo. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Joe. I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to chat. And we were, talking a little bit offline, just that our paths have never formally crossed. Obviously, I've kind of been a fan and heard of SweatWorks from afar, but excited to get the full kind of download from you today. So just to kick things off, maybe introduce yourself and tell us about SweatWorks.
Yeah, Joe, again, thanks for having me. I've been a big fan of the Fitt Insider podcast and all that you all have been doing for the industry. So thank you for that, first and foremost. Yeah, so just to give some background on me, I was born in the Middle East in Dubai, immigrated over to the States in 1991. I was 11 at the time. And really that helped set the foundation for my journey into fitness and wellness. And I can get into that some other time. SweatWorks itself was actually a thesis during my MBA, one of the last things that I did. And what I really wanted to do there, fitness and wellness has always been a personal passion of my life. And it's really helped kind of set the stage for a lot of things that I do, whether it is in school when I was younger, when I had a pretty stressful corporate job, or with family and my kids and so on. So it's helped me in many, many different ways. And I always felt like, what if we had a way to make it more engageable and more accessible? And late in the 2000s, the iPhone was out. I actually had an opportunity to work on the initial iPhone earlier in my past life. And it really provided us the rails to reach more people in an accessible, engageable way. So I started thinking about how can we make, again, fitness reach more people? And I always felt like it had a bit of an exclusive air to it. So at the time, if you look at people that do Ironman, or if you went into a Gold's Gym, and you might find folks in tank tops or carrying around big jugs of water. Still don't know why I needed a gallon of jug in the gym, but you kind of had this intimidation factor, and I just felt like the bar to enter, or the price of entry into wellness, was much higher than it needed to be. And if we had a way to just nudge people into right behavioral habits using data, using apps, then let's go ahead and do that. So at the time I was thinking about, I had a couple of options. I could either do my thesis on creating a new wellness app and creating something on the platform, or I could use data as a way to help engage brands who already have a captured audience. And that's the path that I went down. And I drafted up this model, and this was in 2009. And in 2011, I started having the itch, and I spoke to a few people that I met through the MBA program. And they said, you've got to go do this. I had an inflection point in my personal story. I was married. I got divorced. I'm now remarried again. And it was a great time to kind of hit the reset button, to leave a corporate job, which I loved, and said, let me really follow my passion. And in 2012, I formally formed this company today.
Yeah. And it's been 10 years at this point, even more than that when you talk about how you initially, started to formulate the idea. Did you have a sense, or maybe if you can look into the future at that point, I don't know how you could have had a sense of what it would become and how that vision for SweatWorks has evolved over time?
Yeah, I did not have a complete sense, but I knew that with passion, hard work, timing, and a bit of luck, things could work out. And I probably cannot stress enough about timing. When I initially came up with it, apps were just taking off. I mean, Runkeeper in 2009 was the first running app released on the iPhone, and I had an opportunity to know them and later on work with them. But I really felt like it was timing. I felt like technology, the intersection of technology and wellness was coming together. Did I know that we were going to be around for 10 years? We're hitting our 10-year anniversary on April 4th. I'm looking forward to that. Probably not. And did I also know that we would have the influence and the impact that we have now? Probably not. I continuously tell myself that I'm a kid in a really big candy store, right? If I can use that analogy in wellness, I'll wake up every day loving what I do and really enjoying it. And I get to work with brands that we actually believe in and brands that are invested in making a change. So that's been the goal from the beginning, and it continues to be our goal moving forward.
Yeah, it's incredible. And that you can marry your passion and what you're excited about. I think the timing piece is super important, right? That if some of the enabling technology hadn't trended in the direction it had, like that opportunity likely wouldn't have presented itself. And then there's also what that looks like in practice. So when we talk about working with these brands, increasing, making health and fitness more accessible, can you just talk about whether it's capability wise or some of the clients and projects, what does that look like in action at SweatWorks?
So capabilities have actually evolved significantly over the last 10 years. Initially, when we started, our goal was to use UX and UI, the best in design, the best experience, to really help brands engage their audience. And to us, what that meant is if you were a brand like SoulCycle or a brand like Equinox, a brand like Spartan Race, which was one of our first clients earlier on, the goal wasn't to reach the everybody. The goal was to be smart about who you reach and really focus on that recruitment. And then when you get them to enter the brand, focus on retaining them so that they keep on coming back and engaging with you over and over again. And in order to do that, again, we used data to target the right people. So instead of doing these broader campaigns and say, I'm just going to target every male and female between 18 and 50 in this geographic area, let's be more specific about it. And let's actually focus on the folks that would want to come to the experience, enjoy the experience, and keep them coming back. And then once they've come into the brand, we then, again, use that same kind of process to help retain them and use a good consumer to then recruit new people. We've always believed that your best advocate and your best marketing person is a captured consumer, you already have them within your brand. So from a capabilities perspective, that's really evolved over time. Initially, we were really known for mobile applications. We were one of the first fitness wearable applications. So brands would engage us on kind of thinking about, we don't have a mobile experience. Can you help us go from web to mobile? Great. So we did that. They've also engaged us on things like, we have a great boutique studio. How can we make this more experiential? How do we bring data and maybe metrics into that? Events used us for areas such as live GPS tracking. So a good example is even with Spartan Race, at the time, when you finished an event, you would get sometimes a printout or just have to wait for your results. We made results happen in real time in 2012. We also evolved in areas like using facial recognition for photos before anyone else ever did. So we innovated in really creative ways. Since then, fast forwarding now to 10 years, our capabilities have expanded significantly, like quite a bit. And I'm sure you've seen some of that. We now have gone into hardware. So we do everything from really smart connected fitness consoles. We have an office in Shenzhen, to wearables. We work with a company called Mix Biosensors, for example, and we're making a smart wearable for them, to everything else that we've done before with a heavy focus on digital content, on streaming, on real-time applications. So I think our capabilities have really expanded over the last 10 years. In the last, I'd say, 24 months, we've increased our capabilities around AI, both vision and data as well.
And do you think, this is something that I'm also thinking about, and for a much different reason, right? Just keeping kind of tabs on the industry, looking at emerging companies, looking at what's next in terms of those opportunities. As those, capabilities evolved in the brands and the projects, are you then sitting and thinking like, hey, we have to chart the course forward and drive the innovation down these paths? Or are you more so kind of looking at the brands and they're coming to you and saying, hey, can you do this? And then you're kind of pursuing those things. It's like chicken and the egg, right? Like, how do you think about maintaining that innovation and kind of competitive edge kind of across the broader landscape?
We truly are an innovation-first company and an innovation-first culture. So it's actually the second one where we come up with the concept, we come up with the idea, I'd say, 8 out of 10 times, and then we go to the brands and say, here's what we've come up with. this is a really cool application, and we think it'd be a perfect fit for your brand. So that's just one example. But yes, there are also a lot of times where there are some really smart founders and innovators out there that we have the privilege of working with who come to us and say, we've got this amazing application and we're interested in hiring you to go ahead and build it.
Yeah, I think there's also the other side of that, which is like, then there's so many things and it's so kind of compelling and interesting that you have to pick and choose when to say no, what to work on, what to pursue, and also how to prioritize those things. When you're kind of faced with this and given, maybe you've identified this, really compelling project or technology, there's a brand that wants to work on it, multiple brands. How do you say no? How do you say yes when you do say yes? What's that decision-making process like?
That's a fantastic question. And if I had my way, I'd have a chance to work with pretty much everyone that comes to us. Right now, from a team size perspective, we're about 180 and we're continuing to scale. However, it is a bit of a challenge. So right now, in terms of companies that we accept, it's probably 1 in 6 to 1 in 8 of organizations that approach us or brands that approach us. We have a selection and steering committee internally that is made up of our leadership team, and we evaluate every opportunity. Most of the direction in terms of where we want to go also lies within where we want to go. Is that brand going to help us advance our own capabilities? Is it going to help us move into an area or a place that we want to go to? Ultimately, we're looking for longer term relationships. We want to work with brands that aren't just in style now. We want to work with brands that we'll have a relationship with for 3 or 5 years. So that usually means looking at the team that's at the brand. Are they forward thinking? Are they willing to pivot and change fast? And so again, it's roughly about 1 in 6 of the brands that engage us we're actually able to work with.
Yeah. And going down that path in terms of brands, are there kind of specific companies or products that you've worked on recently, currently working on that you're excited about? Obviously, anything that you can share that you're comfortable sharing in terms of some of those things, taking us behind the scenes a little bit.
I would love to do that. Let me go to some examples that really showed innovation from both us and the brands. One brand that I'm fond of, and I think is a guest that you've had recently, is City Row, and someone who we worked with for the last few years. When we had the supply chain struggles, and we've got this strong hardware business, and we actually were able to fulfill all of the requests that we had on the hardware side through really intelligent and smart thinking and planning. But one of the issues that we had is we needed a very specific module to create an Apple Watch integration. And that module had a 52-week lead time. So we were stuck. But for us, the option wasn't for, hey, let's not allow these users to have access or create this capability. We innovated and came up with a really unique way to take our specific console and the firmware and do a first of its time ever direct integration on a rower with an Apple Watch. So that's something I'm really excited about. And I believe by the time this podcast is released, that's going to be out into the public and in hands of the users of City Row. And there are a few others. One I think that comes into mind is a brand called Grit Boxing. They're a boutique studio based out of New York, and we're working with them on a truly wellness-focused product. So they're going to be releasing in about late Q2, early Q3, I'm not sure of the specific timing, on a fitness-based wellness product. I should probably say wellness-based fitness product. And I'm excited about that because where the market is going, where we see the industry going, is so many brands today are focused on that 30-minute or 45 minutes that you spend on the physical hardware, on the actual workout. But what consumers really need help on and are really seeking advice on is everything else around that. And I think today, most consumers deal in somewhat of a fragmented ecosystem where you might have a product like Whoop that you're using, and then you might have a Peloton or Apple Fitness Plus that you're enjoying your fitness on, but it's really hard to contextualize how do you tie those two together. And then when you look at healthcare in general, I think a lot of wellness-focused consumers are also thinking about, so I've also got healthcare I'm concerned around that. So how do I create an ecosystem? And Grit's working on really this wellness version product that's going to bring in coaching, that's going to look at how you sleep. It's going to be product and brand agnostic. So if you have a Whoop or an Apple Watch, it'll work with that. It will sync you up with coaches if you are feeling stressed about finances or maybe family. And oh, by the way, it'll also help you with your fitness, great boxing. So I'm really excited about that kind of concept coming through.
I think that's huge. I feel like so many of the conversations I'm having right now with folks, whether it's kind of on the consumer side or other operators, is saying like, it is fragmented, it is siloed, that somebody, even if you are very invested in and engaged down the path of health and fitness and wellness, just personally, it's like, I might have 5, 6, 7 different memberships and apps that I have to use and navigate and figure out how to put all this stuff together. So I think that in terms of opportunities, if we kind of pull that thread and continue down that path of one, so like I think of it as a turnkey or more integrated solution, right? So that somebody doesn't have to work so hard to figure out and unlock those various aspects of health and wellness and fitness. What other trends are kind of top of mind for you, whether you're actively working with a client and a brand on those, or just things that are top of mind that you're kind of excited about or anxious to solve?
Yeah, I mean, I think the trends that we see now, and there's several brands that are executing this on, is I always like to think that, we currently live in this 2D landscape, both in connected fitness and in physical fitness as well, where brands are focused, and rightfully so, given the last few years, on executing on what they're doing. So again, if it is like a Peloton, it's focused on the products that they have, which is the bike or the tread or whatever they're coming out with, but really focused and driving on the content side of it. And that's pretty much it. They're not really asking you, what are you doing in the physical location of the gym? And if you are a member at the gym, either whether it's Y, Crunch Fitness, or Equinox, they don't really know what you're doing at home. And the two worlds aren't coming together. So for us, we have this concept of a 3D landscape where we truly believe in hybrid fitness and hybrid wellness, and we're helping brands get there. So the trend that I'm seeing really for 2022 and beyond is a lot of the larger players in the industry today are going to try to get access to the consumer, go in a little bit deeper, and really find out what are they doing in the other 98% of the time that they're not engaged either in the physical site or on the platform.
Do you have a sense? Because, one thing, there is the kind of natural, it's wearables, right? So we have the wearable technology, whether it's an Apple Watch, you mentioned Whoop, or of course, lots of different applications for this, that somehow unlocks, the insights into these other areas of wellness. Now we're starting to see more on the front of like at-home diagnostics and test kits and biomarkers. Of course, over the last probably 2 years, the metabolic health glucose monitoring, continuous glucose monitors have kind of unlocked a level of that. What do you look at as the missing pieces, right? As we think about assembling, moving from this 2D to 3D and more integrated future?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joe. We work with a few brands in that real-time monitoring space. One is called Inside Tracker. We're actually working with them on a real-time wearable. Another one that I mentioned earlier is Nix Biosensors. We're also working on a FootPod with another company. I do think, looking back in terms of unlocks over COVID has really accelerated the unlock in wellness significantly. And it's also accelerated this disruption, which I see happening between healthcare and wellness. And I mean that in a few ways. Here's a simple example. Before COVID, if I went to my GP or family doctor and I needed to do a visit, they had to either message me through some custom portal or had to come in for a visit. And that was a challenge. But now they could send me a text, they can send me an email, and they're allowed to communicate with me in real time, very quickly and efficiently, either through email or some other forms of messaging, which wasn't available before. So what did that do? One, I think it gave me some time back. And second, it gave the practitioner some time back so that they could see more consumers. And that's happening today in fitness. So I think the biggest unlocks that we're seeing is really being able to engage in fitness and wellness a lot more efficiently, where you might not need to go to the gym every day. You could go to the gym 3-4 times a week, maybe engage in some other form of wellness outside of that. So those are the big unlocks that we're seeing. In terms of wearables and connectivity, I do think that a lot of progress has been made over the last 12 months. Whoop released its Gen 4 product, which is really exciting. Oura also released a new product. Sensors are getting better. And what's more important is they're also being able to analyze the data that comes out of them much better. So where I'm seeing this trend going, starting this year, is really in more predictive behavior, being able to say you are coming down with an injury or your potential for injury is increasing, and really giving you more insight that we never had before, and then adding context to that.
Yeah, I think all of those things as we think about the evolution of this technology, the one thing that stands out to me, and I don't know if you have a good sense for it or that we would be able to solve it here today, but as we think about, healthcare and bridging that gap between fitness and wellness and maybe preventative healthcare, there's kind of obvious overlaps, and it's starting to get closer, right? As we think about what an Apple Watch can do in terms of sensing a heart attack or predicting, right, kind of a interruption in the rhythm of the heart. You say the Whoop or Aura now kind of signaling as a early detection system for COVID. Some of those things are really incredibly powerful. Do you think that we can bridge that gap in a way between fitness and wellness, which is much more of a lifestyle preventative habit and incredibly powerful tool for kind of like staving, off some of these more complicated health issues, and actual healthcare where it's like, now I'm going to the doctor and I'm seeking out treatment for whatever this condition or ailment is?
I think the wheels are in motion for that. One other one we should mention is probably CrossFit, who released out a new healthcare practice directly with the new CrossFit organization. There are two big players that come to mind when I'm looking at who's at the forefront on big tech and then everybody else. On the big tech side, really it's Apple and Amazon. You could probably add Google, but Apple and Amazon right now. Apple owns your data on your wrist with being the number one smartwatch on the planet today. And Amazon is also entering that space very aggressively. They both own the rails in their own way. Amazon is the second most used search engine in the world after Google. Enabling them to order prescriptions from or to see a specialist is very easy. They recently launched Amazon Care and they have Amazon Halo, both of which are designed towards healthcare disruption. And of course, Apple is working aggressively towards that. So I think you have two big players that are moving into the healthcare space quickly. But for everyone else, I think as a wellness industry, we're really focused on preventative care and focused on how do we improve your quality of life. Our healthcare institution in the United States in particular is really built on a reactionary platform. When you're injured, if you aren't feeling well, we have the best system in the world to help take care of you and help get you hopefully feeling much better. But that's not the long-term solution, because just like I started this agency to make fitness and wellness more accessible, healthcare is not that accessible. We have the best facilities, but yet more than 40% of this country is either uninsured or underinsured. And I think that the fitness industry and the wellness industry could play a significant role there. And we talked about a few minutes ago, hey, what projects are you looking forward? Those are the types of things that really pique our interest that we want to dive into, is how do we use wellness, all the data that we're now getting from wearables, to really help take consumers towards a healthy journey so that hopefully they don't need to go and leverage this great healthcare system that we have in this country today.
Yeah, continuing to enable and increase access, make it, that prevention and making sure people are taking the steps necessary that, like you said, hopefully they don't have to go down that path or make it much less necessary. Changing gears a little bit, one thing is we're talking about this and we think about not only just the kind of nature of employment right now and the kind of competition that's going on as people are changing jobs and thinking about, really pursuing something that they're passionate about and can feel fulfilled in doing. Obviously, in the kind of agency setting, your team being distributed, and obviously there's kind of like this push for recruiting and retaining talent. Do you feel like that's, well, maybe one part of that, how do you approach doing that, attracting the talent that can then continue to stay innovative to help you solve these problems?
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. Talent for us is everything. And fundamentally, I don't just mean this to be cliche. I said this at our 2020 kickoff 2 days ago, but I actually mean it. It starts with the employees. Our employees are our most important asset. And personally, I view that as first and foremost is investing in them. And for us, here's why. the reason we are where we are and achieving the growth that we are is because we continue to not only innovate aggressively, but then keep that knowledge in-house. So the next time a new brand comes to us, yeah, we know how to read something from an Apple Watch. Yeah, we understand Whoop, we know GPS and all of those things. But if we continuously have a lot of churn and have to hire new people, just getting onboarded with us and getting to understand all that we do probably takes about 6 months to a year until you're really ingrained in understanding our culture. So we have aggressively pursued in finding ways to create innovative methods to invest in employees. And that takes a few levels. One, we restructured last year into being more of a functional organization than a project-based organization. So as an agency, the most common practice is to build out project teams and kind of have those teams work very closely together. Now, we still have project teams, but we changed that reporting structure to be functional driven. So you might have console hardware, wearable hardware, UX, UI. Actually, UX is one, UI is another one, Android engineering, iOS engineering, and so on. And what that's helped us do is not only have cross-training, but also a career path up as well. So that's been really important and share knowledge across teams. The second thing, to your point, is we were distributed for a long time. Now we have 5 physical locations, and we really use those locations as collaboration hubs. I never see ourselves being in the office 100% of the time, ever. I truly believe that, and I think a lot of other companies have now learned that the average American spends about 22 minutes commuting, each way, and another like 20 minutes or so getting ready each day. I mean, if that's 5 hours that you get back in a week, I'd rather you engage in some sort of wellness activity than commuting. So that's one, and we actually live by that. But I do believe that there's still a need for a physical space. So this year, we're actually building out our new headquarters here in Arlington, Virginia, that's going to have a studio in the facility, a very large innovation lab, so we can build prototypes and boards and actually build product here instead of in China and then ship it over, and space for about 40 to 50 people where we could do things like employee onboarding, project kickoff, project launches, and so on. Something innovative too that is an internal innovation that we did this year is we just announced what we're calling our long-term incentive program, which we feel like is really unique and we're excited about. I think some folks know that we actually have an investment fund as well called SweatWorks Holdings. And that's really important for us for 2 reasons. One, as an agency, we don't have any outside investment, so we're completely in-house. And one of the ways we're able to do that is by investing mostly in brands that we work with, but also some brands that we don't work with. We take those returns and invest them back into SweatWorks. So we decided to say, why don't we open that up to the entire company? So now every employee starting on the 1st of this year gets shares in SweatWorks Holding. And that for us is our long-term incentive plan. So if there's ever an event or an exit, everyone gets to benefit in that. So I think the goal here to retention, which is as important as recruitment, is investing in your employees and making sure that you're thinking about them, their career path, and you're really empathizing with their role. And in terms of recruitment, you've got to be an attractive place for people to come to. So we try to use the industry that we're in. So one, if you're passionate about fitness, this is a great place for you. We try to be competitive with our salaries and pay. We do try to focus on our 5 major hubs that we're in, but we're open to hiring anyone, anywhere, especially if they are strong talent.
Yeah, I think the piece around investing is, I think, really incredible in terms of how you're approaching that. And just to maybe clarify a little bit, are you saying that they can invest alongside of SweatWorks, or that there's some type of incentive sharing that comes with that they're kind of opting into?
Yeah, so automatically after being with SweatWorks for 1 year, actually, I'm not clear on the specifics. It might be 3 months or a year. We just rolled out the program.
Yep.
You get shares without investing. So SweatWorks invests in other companies. So we have a fund, and you as an employee will now have shares from the SweatWorks Holdings company without investing anything of your own. So you immediately can capitalize and leverage the investments that we make.
Yeah, super smart. And I think really compelling as folks, you roll this out and then kind of chat with potential employees down the road about what this might look like. When you think about just kind of following the path down the investment side, is that purely the investments in terms of you're out and kind of diligencing deals and making those determinations? Is it more so to enable you to invest in the companies that you're specifically partnering with and working on? Or is it kind of a traditional fund in the sense that you're out there evaluating deals just like everybody else?
I think it's probably more in the traditional sense where we are out there evaluating deals just like everyone else. Certainly the brands that we work with sometimes come to us. We usually don't engage with them immediately. We want to get to know them a little bit better. And from working with them, we get to know their leadership team. We get to know the founders. We get to know the trend that they're going. So we kind of have an inside track into that brand. So yes, we typically do invest in some, but not all of the brands that we work with. We've also come across some fantastic brands that we aren't engaged with, right? Whether it's timing or where they are, or maybe they're just a lot more ahead or too early for us, but we still believe in the founder story. And that I feel like is really important. If the founder's got the passion and has a great story, that's half of the challenge. We'll go ahead and invest in them as well. But most importantly, it's still within the wellness category. So we only kind of stick within the space that we know.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. And given the expertise and the relationships that you're building, it only makes sense that you would have this extension of the kind of broader company. As we get towards the end of the conversation here, recognizing, right, we're at the start of a new year. You mentioned some of the things that you're working towards in terms of building out the new HQ, a couple projects that you have in the pipeline. I'm sure there are many others. When you think about whether it's milestones, benchmarks, just things that you're excited about in this first quarter, maybe first half of the year, is there anything that kind of stands out that we should be on the lookout for, or that is kind of top of mind for you?
Yeah, I think the strength category in general is going to go through incredible innovation in 2022. Not that it hasn't been focused on. You've got some tremendous brands like Tonal. I actually own a Tonal. You've got Tempo. So some really good brands out there. We're actually working with one called Speed Fitness, which uses a really unique movement technology using motors to increase the strength capacity up to 4,000 pounds. I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about the innovation that's going to happen in AI, both in vision and in data. I really feel like the technology has come to a point and a place now where brands can truly leverage AI, where it's just not going to be a nice thing to have and more like the sizzle, but it's actually going to be functional and consumers can really benefit from that. So that's really exciting. And I think ultimately, I think just digital fitness and physical fitness, this intersection is happening this year. So I'm excited to see, especially later in the year, because I know a lot of the things that we're working on, to see the intersection actually happen, this hybrid model that everyone talks about actually come to fruition.
Yeah, we've gotten to see kind of like the start and stop of it.
Yeah.
People were pushing down that path, I think, but that coming to life, and then, really how digital brands will move into the physical landscape, how physical brands will continue, brick and mortar companies continue to push into that digital landscape. I also think that presents some pretty interesting possibilities down the M&A and partnership path that we'll start to see as well. Wrapping up and thinking about, what you've spoken about here today, when, folks who are listening that want to learn more and potentially connect, where would you point them in terms of engaging with SweatWorks?
I think if you want to connect with me personally, you can go to my LinkedIn profile. I'm pretty active over there, so happy to connect and chat with anybody on there. You can go to our website, sweatworks.com, to learn more about us as well.
Awesome, Mo. Well, thanks for spending some time with us here today. I really enjoyed the conversation. And really excited to share it with listeners.
Thank you so much, Joe. Have a great one.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's episode. For more from Fitt Insider, visit insider.fit.co and subscribe to our weekly newsletter for insights and analysis on the business of fitness and wellness. Then, go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. See you next time.